Welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is Kodeations. In today's video, we're going to be jumping back into some Cookie Run Kingdom, and I'm going to be bringing you guys 5 cookies that you absolutely should be building right now, especially as a new player jumping into the game. And we're going to be specifically looking at epic cookies, just because I know that ancients and legendaries are obviously OP. That's no secret, so we're not going to be covering those in today's video. We're going to be specifically looking at 5 epic cookies that every player should be building. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Diving right in here, ladies and gentlemen, to the very first cookie we've got out of the 5 cookies that you absolutely should be building, and that's going to bring us to Licorice Cookie. Licorice, hands down, you can't argue with the guy. He's absolutely ridiculous. Basically, he's a magic user, but he's a magic user slash tank slash buffer, and it's just broken pretty much. He's pretty much been on the top of the list, I would argue to say S tier unit since day 1 in the game. He summons minions. These minions do damage. These minions soak up damage, and you can see that by right here. They get a 5% attack buff. They get 150% defense buff. They get a 50% HB buff to their overall servant, which is absolutely ridiculous. And not only that, on top of them buffing themselves, they also provide a 20% defense buff for your entire team, which is absolutely insane. So definitely do not sleep on a Licorice. When it comes to investing in toppings in Licorice, I would advise going for a full cooldown set. And then not only that, focusing in on additional cooldown percentage is going to be beneficial via the substats. Additional attack is going to also help with those servants doing some damage. And then last but not least, focusing in on some damage resistance to allow Licorice to stay alive a lot longer, especially when it comes to utilizing him in the overall arena. Now, diving into the second cookie we've got on this list of 5 cookies that you absolutely need to be building, and that's going to bring us to Strawberry Crepe. And this is going to be a little bit of a spotlight video on Strawberry Crepe, just because I know Hollyberry is currently out in the game. However, Hollyberry is going to be of ancient status, and most players, especially new players diving into the game, are not going to have a Hollyberry for quite some time. And with that being said, outside of luck, Strawberry Crepe is going to be your best option in my opinion. Strawberry Crepe basically provides a 50% damage resistant shield for 8 seconds for all of your party members, and it's absolutely a lifesaver when it comes to several different types of content in the game, whether it's going to be PvE, when you're battling specific boss stages that, will basically hit, AoE damage, whether it's going to be the new Tropical Soda raid content that's going to allow you to mitigate the damage that the boss puts on your team, or even in the PvP aspect of the game, they stand up a ton against other teams. So definitely meta when it comes to overall cookie. I would highly recommend building a Strawberry Crepe. Again, when it comes to Strawberry Crepe, focusing in on a full cooldown set is going to be the best here, because Strawberry Crepe, you really get the most use out of them via the shield that they provide during their skill. So you want to make sure that you're using their skill as much as possible, and that's how you're going to achieve that, with utilizing those Swift Chocolates basically to give as much cooldown as you possibly can. Again, when it comes to the substats, focus on the main 3, the additional attack, the additional damage resistance, and then obviously the additional cooldown is going to be beneficial. However, for PvP specific, I would recommend also focusing in on some crit resistance and then also debuff resistance. All of those are going to help you basically in staying alive with some of those high burst damage dealing teams that you're going to face. Now, officially diving in here to the third cookie we've got on our list of the 5 cookies that every account should be building or working on building, and that's going to be Parfait Cookie. Now, I know some people in the comments might disagree with this. They might like herb better. They might like, one of the other epic cookies that do some sort of healing. They might like nothing but custard. Whatever the case may be, you can't argue with Parfait's utility. Parfait, if you look at her skill, not only provides a healing for everybody on your team, but she also provides a 10% of defense buff for everybody, which that's not, really big, but it still adds a little bit of defense. But what makes her super useful is going to be the debuff resistance of 40% for all of your party members, which that's absolutely huge, especially for 2 different types of content. The tropical raid system in the game, which some of you new players probably have no clue what I'm talking about, but don't worry, it'll eventually come back around. We already had season 1. We're waiting for season 2 to come back. Once it comes back, you'll know what I'm talking about, but she's very, very good in that. Basically, what debuff resistance does also, if you don't know, is that it reduces the amount of time your cookies are stunned. Yeah, exactly. It reduces the amount of time that your cookies are stunned for. Tropical Raid Boss applies stuns to your overall team. really, really good here. Same thing goes for the PvP aspect in the game. A lot of compositions run Sea Fairy, which applies that, 5 enemies stun or 5 cookies on your side stun your entire team when she uses her ability. This right here is a direct counter to Sea Fairy by allowing you to basically have your cookies stunned for a lesser amount of time, which again is absolutely broken. And then, like I said, outside of that, we've been testing her over time. She does more healing than Herb does when it comes to PvE content in the game. On top of that, I think she outshines Herb. I definitely think she deserves a number 3 spot. Same thing goes for the overall toppings. I've also ran a cooldown reduction set on her. One could argue that you could potentially run a 3 cooldown reduction set and then run maybe like 2 solid almonds if you want to just add a little bit more survivability to her. But I definitely think that cooldown is the best way to go, just because you are going to need her skill to pop off to take advantage of that debuff resistance of 40%, the additional healing, and the additional defense buff. But again, like I said, try to focus in on those main substats: additional attack, which will increase the overall heals that she provides, the additional damage resistance to add to her survivability, especially the crit resistance and debuff resistance when it comes to the additional, PvP aspect of using her on the arena. Now, diving into the 4th cookie we've got here for you guys, and that's going to bring us to Sorbet Shark. It's no secret, Sorbet Shark as an ambush has pretty much taken over as one of the top damage dealers in the game, and rightfully so. I mean, if you take a look at his kit here, it basically, we're not going to read the whole thing because it's really, really long, but basically his kit actually shifts according to if he's going up against enemies in the arena, basically other cookies, or if he's going up enemies in the PvE aspect, or basically like the world exploration. I don't have a whole lot to say here. He's basically just going to be a awesome damage dealing cookie. He does a lot of damage to the front line, and that's going to be where his target range is in the front line units. So anytime that you're going up against another tank, his whole job is to pretty much obliterate that tank. Really, really good damage dealer to have. When it comes to overall toppings and investments of him, I would advise just to run a full Searing Raspberry set to just really maximize and capitalize on the attack that he can do. It kind of does open the door to be a little bit of a glass cannon, but that's why with substats, as long as you are focusing in on trying to get as much damage resistance as you possibly can out of the substats, that will allow him to live a lot longer and take a lot more hits. Same thing goes for the crit resist and the debuff resist when it comes to things like, the arena aspect of the game. And then obviously the cooldown reduction is always welcomed, because you just need to make sure he's utilizing his skill as much as possible to do as much damage. But again, very, very good cookie. Now, last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, to the 5th and final cookie that we've got on this list that everybody should be building no matter what your account status is, and that's going to be Vampire Cookie. I still stand behind this guy. He is going to be literally the best single target damage dealer in the game, and on top of that, he's got a self-heal, which is going to be vampirism, right? Which we already know he's a vampire. It makes sense that he has vampirism, which basically gives him a 15% of his overall damage that he does, basically heals him, which is huge for his class as a ambush, because he's going to do a mega ton of damage and he's going to receive a ton of healing from that damage directly, and this is what really makes him shine. Not only that, he's huge for the guild boss battle for doing as much damage as you possibly can. Absolutely does a huge, puts up really big numbers there. Not only that, when it comes to sniping units in the PvP aspect, if you've got a healer in the back line and they're not running solid almonds on their pure vanilla, guess what? Vampire goes back there, bites them, bye-bye PvC. Game over, because their team has no healing. Same thing goes for the PvE aspect of the game. I mean, certain bosses in the world exploration, you can easily do a mega ton of damage with, especially some of those in-game bosses or those in-episode bosses. Vampire's going to come in clutch, especially with things like the Slingshot Treasure, so definitely do not sleep on him. Again, same thing goes for Sorbet here. When it comes to overall toppings, running a full set of Searing Raspberries really allows you to take advantage of the additional attack that you can get out of Vampire. But again, keep in mind, he does actually survive a lot longer than Sorbet, just because he does have the ability to self-heal himself based upon his damage, which then Sorbet does not. So I would argue that you don't have to focus so much on damage resistance on Vampire as you would, in my opinion, focusing on attack, a crit percent, and then also the cooldown reduction, so then he can use his skill more often. But again, that's what I would recommend when it comes to Vampire. Definitely do not sleep on him either. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to be 5 cookies that every player in the game right now should be building and not sleeping on. So just keep that in mind. These are going to definitely help expedite your account, expedite your progress, really help you focus in on your resources and not waste those resources, because all these cookies, believe it or not, that I have told you right now in today's video are going to be used in various types of content, not just niche to one content. Therefore, you're getting more value out of your resources that you use to invest in them. But as always, you let me know down below in the comments what your guys' thoughts are. Do you have any additional questions, or if you got additional cookies that you want me to take a look at and really give you my opinion on them? And I would love to hear what your thoughts are. With that being said, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you get notification every time we drop a video. We've got a Discord link provided down below as well, with over 2,000 members over there that are always willing to help out new players. And not only that, my DMs are always open, so definitely get down in there and join the Discord. And as always, I will see you guys on the next one.